From Thailand's Uncle SMS to the EU Chat Control Act. Now, I started thinking about this case that I wrote about many years ago when I was reading some of the gory details about the EU Chat Control Act that hopefully has been blocked, but we're not quite sure yet. But this story talks about private messages and when they become evidence, so it's kind of linked, and it shows how no conversation is truly safe. It's a tragic story. He's an old guy called Uncle SMS, they called him in Thailand, and it shows what happens when governments gain unchecked access to our personal communication. And that's what Europe is trying to do. So let's just refresh ourselves with the story. You may not have heard it, of course. It's very sad. In 2010... his name was Ampon Tangnoppakul. Apologies for the pronunciation. He was basically a 61-year-old grandfather who we'll call Uncle SMS. So that's what he was known as in Thailand. He was arrested in Thailand for allegedly sending 4 text messages that criticised the monarchy. That's all. Unfortunately for him, under Thailand's strict lèse-majesté laws, again, apologies for the pronunciation, they criminalise any perceived insult to the royal family. Uncle SMS faced some severe prosecution for this. He said he was innocent. He said he didn't even know how to send SMS messages. We're not sure if that's true or what. But basically he was sentenced to 20 years in prison, 5 years for each of the text messages he was supposed to have sent. The case sparked international outrage, but unfortunately died in custody in 2012. So he was in jail for about a year and a half, I think. He had cancer and he never got free. He was trying to get released under a royal pardon, but it never got that far. His story became a bit of a symbol for how governments can weaponize access to private communications, and I think it's very relevant here. Europe's Chat Control Act is basically mass surveillance of our communications under a child safety banner. So we've got mandatory message scanning. Every text message, email and direct message will be subject to automated scanning by tech companies who are all looking for this, inverted commas, illegal content before messages are even sent. It breaks end-to-end encryption, so all the privacy and protection we put in is being bypassed by this client-side scanning. So services like WhatsApp and Signal would basically have to create a backdoor into their encryption, undermining all this security. And remember, this backdoor exists. It's been created for governments, but it's also available for anybody who can figure it out. It basically means that no message would be private in the EU. It eliminates completely the concept of private digital communication. Every single person who sends a text message is a potential subject who needs to be monitored continuously. It's quite shocking when you think about it. It's marketed as a tool to protect children online, but the EU's proposed Chat Control Act would create one of the most comprehensive mass surveillance systems ever implemented in a democratic society, and in fact in an undemocratic society as well. I can only imagine what the Stasi would have killed. Well, they probably did, but would have done to get hold of something like this. They would have implemented it straight away. This is the sort of thing that imprisoned Uncle SMS, but wrapped in a protective language. The EU Chat Control and Uncle SMS, it's got a chilling effect on free speech. When people know their messages are being monitored, they self-censor. So anybody is going to think twice before communicating openly. And I don't mean just activists, journalists, whistleblowers, and ordinary citizens. How many risque or jokes or ideas or things you'd share with your friends that you wouldn't want to be known to the government because you know they would take it the wrong way. The security vulnerabilities exist for everybody. An encryption backdoor doesn't distinguish between a good guy and a bad guy. Once created, these vulnerabilities are can be exploited by hackers, hostile governments, cyber criminals, anybody really. If you think the government is the only one who's going to have access to it in 2 years, you will be sorely wrong, I am sure. The scope creep and mission drift, if you put in the tools and the monitoring and the surveillance powers, they're granted for child safety only. Let's face it, we can all guarantee today it's child safety, tomorrow it will be political dissent, copyright enforcement, terrorism, or any behaviour that your government wants to control. There is an Uncle SMS president. There have been many more cases in Thailand like this. Uncle SMS caught the imagination of the international press at the time, but there have been dozens more. There was even a US journalist this year, I think, who was prosecuted under the same thing for a webinar he was giving. I think that was dropped in the end. I can't remember his name now. Paul something, not sure. I'll put it in the description below. Anyway, what happens when privacy dies? Well, this is where we are now. The Germans, thankfully, have probably done us a favour, but it's still not dead and buried, this. I suggest everybody in the EU and anybody who wants to communicate for the EU, because your messages will be going in there and being scanned as well. Research the Chat Control Act, read about it, understand how it would potentially affect your digital rights. There's lots of stuff like the Electronic Frontier Foundation and European Digital Rights who've got much better and detailed analysis from cleverer people than myself. Contact representatives if you don't like the sound of it. I'm sure there are ways to contact. EU citizens can contact their members of parliament quite easily. I'm sure there is. There is in the UK for ours, and there was for EU MPs, but I'm sure everybody in the EU knows how to do this. Your elected officials need to hear that constituents value privacy, and you don't want mass surveillance. And support digital rights groups. If you feel strongly enough, these organisations are fighting for encryption and privacy rights. They need backing or they won't exist. Donations, signatures on petitions, anything like that to amplify their message can all make a difference. Uncle SMS story ended in tragedy. I was thinking about it today. I remember writing a little blog post about it, and it was very sad. It didn't have a happy Hollywood ending. Nobody really knows whether he was guilty or not, but in some ways it didn't kind of really matter. He should never be in prison anyway, even if he was making fun of the Thailand monarchy. So Europe has the chance to choose a different path. It's quite chilling to think they would go down this path. I can't believe they would, but who knows? One that protects children. You can create a sort of society that protects children without sacrificing privacy rights and that underpin a democratic society, I think. The question is whether citizens will demand that choice before it's too late. German political party has stood up. They need our backing. Anyway, thanks for watching, and I hope you all have a great day. Bye for now.